50-year-old Aaron Fryer was found dead yesterday. 3 people are now facing charges in connection with his murder. The suspect Fryer's teenage daughter, her boyfriend, Gavin McFarland, and his friend Russell Jones.
On the morning of October 2, 2017, the quiet city of Medford, Oregon, was shaken by a desperate phone call to 911. Maggie Freer's voice trembled as she told the dispatcher that something terrible had happened at her ex-husband's house.
Fryer pleaded guilty for her role in the murder when she was only 15. 2 other young men are also charged. News Watch 12's Leah Thompson is live in the Jackson County Courthouse tonight.
Her 2 younger daughters had come home that morning, shaken and scared. They told her that their father, Aaron Freer, and their older sister, 15-year-old Ellen, known as Ellie, were gone. The dispatcher tried to get details, asking what the children had seen and what they knew. Maggie could barely process the words. Her daughters had said only one thing clearly: their dad was missing, and so was Ellie. In that moment, Maggie's fear was overwhelming. She didn't know if they were hurt, if they had been taken, or if something even worse had happened during the night. For the police officers sent to Benson Street, it was supposed to be a simple welfare check. But as every officer knows, a call like this can turn into anything. Behind the calm voice of Maggie on the line was the growing panic of a mother who could not reach her child or her ex-husband. She had no answers, only fear. What began as a routine check would soon open into one of the darkest and most disturbing investigations the Medford police had ever seen. Blood in the house. When officers arrived at Aaron Freer's home on Benson Street, they immediately sensed something was wrong. The front door was silent, the air heavy, but what they found inside told a story of violence. Blood was everywhere. It stained the living room walls, soaked into the furniture, and spattered across shattered glass. The scene was chaotic, filled with signs of a struggle, yet no bodies were found. For investigators, the blood made one thing clear: this was not a simple disappearance. Something brutal had taken place here. A trail of blood led out toward the carport, as if someone had been dragged. It continued into the dirt, eventually vanishing near the driveway. But Aaron and Ellie were nowhere to be found. Detectives knew that time was slipping away. Each second could mean the difference between life and death. The missing car added to their alarm. A neighbor's security camera showed Aaron's vehicle leaving around 5:30 a.m., just as Maggie's younger daughter, Sierra, remembered waking up to the sound of breaking glass. The officers no longer treated this as a welfare check. It was now a major crime scene, a possible murder with 2 family members missing. What had started as confusion turned into a desperate race to uncover what happened in that bloody living room. Missing father and daughter with blood covering the home and no sign of Aaron or Ellie, police declared the case a possible kidnapping or murder. The quiet street filled with patrol cars, detectives, and neighbors watching in disbelief. For Maggie, the nightmare deepened. Hours had passed since her younger daughters told her their father and sister were gone, yet she still had no answers. Her voice cracked as she told police she feared the worst. Detectives quickly realized the urgency. If Aaron was injured, he needed help immediately. If Ellie was missing, she could be in danger. Every option was on the table. Had someone taken them, or had something happened inside the family itself? The mystery grew darker when officers found both Aaron's and Ellie's phones left behind in the house. To investigators, this meant neither of them had simply walked away. The community joined in the search. Roads were checked, calls were made, and every officer in Medford was put on alert. Sierra, just 11 years old, told detectives she had seen 2 young men outside the home early that morning. One of them, she said, was Ellie's boyfriend, Gavin McFarland. This shocking detail gave investigators their first real lead. But as the hours dragged on and Aaron remained missing, the fear that they were searching for a body instead of a rescue began to settle in. Ellie found alive just hours after Maggie's desperate 911 call, police finally spotted a familiar face. Walking along a busy Medford street was 15-year-old Ellie Freer. She wasn't alone. At her side was her boyfriend, 19-year-old Gavin McFarland, and another young man later identified as Russell Jones. To investigators, the sight was both a relief and a shock. Ellie appeared unharmed, but her presence with Gavin and Russell only deepened the mystery. The trio walked casually in plain sight, as if nothing had happened. But detectives knew what they had left behind. Aaron's house soaked in blood, his car missing, and still no sign of him. Officers quickly detained Ellie, Gavin, and Russell, separating them for questioning. For Ellie's mother, Maggie, the discovery brought mixed emotions. Her daughter was alive, but now in police custody, linked to the most violent crime the family had ever faced. Investigators pressed Ellie for answers, but she denied knowing what happened to her father. She claimed she had just been out walking and happened to meet Gavin and Russell. But the police weren't convinced. The sheer amount of blood told a different story, and Sierra's account of seeing Gavin and Russell at the house that morning tied them directly to the scene. Ellie's return raised more questions than answers, and the urgent search for Aaron only grew more desperate. Russell leads police as detectives questioned the suspects. Russell Jones quickly became the most talkative. Unlike Ellie, who insisted she knew nothing, and Gavin, who stayed quiet, Russell wanted to speak. At first, he claimed he and Gavin had only gone to Aaron Freer's house to help Ellie escape a bad situation. He described Aaron as not a good person, hinting at abuse but giving no details. Detectives knew parts of his story didn't add up. When pressed further, Russell finally cracked. He admitted that there was more to the story and that only 95% of what he said was true. Then came the moment that shifted the entire case. Russell agreed to lead detectives to Aaron. Handcuffed, he sat in the police car giving calm directions. Turn left, turn right, go further up the mountain. After nearly 20 miles in a remote wooded ravine, Russell told them to stop. Officers stepped out, scanning the area, until they saw a green tarp hidden under brush. Beneath it lay the lifeless body of Aaron Freer, brutally killed and discarded like he meant nothing. Gavin's confession after Russell led detectives to Aaron's body, attention turned to Gavin McFarland. At first, Gavin tried to portray himself as a victim, insisting Aaron had threatened him and hated his relationship with Ellie. He said he only wanted to protect her. But detectives had evidence that told a different story. When pressed, Gavin broke down and admitted what really happened inside the Freer home. According to Gavin, Aaron had been asleep on the couch when he crept in carrying a baseball bat. In the darkness, Gavin swung down hard, again and again. He estimated 5 or 6 blows, each one shattering bone and leaving the house soaked in blood. He admitted that Ellie had handed him the bat and whispered, "I'm ready when you are." Just moments before the attack, Gavin's confession matched the physical evidence. The blood patterns, the sound Sierra remembered hearing, even the bat recovered later stained with Aaron's blood, all confirmed his account. But Gavin tried to soften his guilt, claiming he acted on instinct, pushed by anger and Ellie's pleas. For investigators, the truth was now undeniable. Aaron's death wasn't an accident or self-defense. It was a deliberate, premeditated killing. Gavin had swung the weapon, but the chilling question remained: had he done it alone? Or was Ellie truly the mastermind behind her father's murder? Family still broken in the aftermath of Aaron Freer's murder, the family was left shattered. Maggie, who had made the 911 call that began the case, now faced the unimaginable. Her daughter Ellie arrested for conspiring to kill her father. She struggled with anger toward the police for questioning Ellie for 10 hours without telling her. And at the same time, she wrestled with the horror of what Ellie had done. Sierra, who was only 11 at the time, carried her own burden. She had been the one to hear the sounds that night. The breaking glass, the dragging, the muffled cries. She had been the one to see Gavin and Russell outside. And now, years later, she still calls her father a good man, insisting he was loving and kind, even as Ellie accused him of abuse. For Sierra, the memory of her father lives on in her daily life. Ellie eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Gavin received the same sentence while Russell got 15 years. From her cell, Ellie has earned degrees and tried to rebuild her identity. Yet to many, her name will always be tied to betrayal and blood. The Freer family remains divided, bound together by tragedy but broken by the choices of one night. Aaron is gone, Ellie is behind bars, and Sierra has grown into adulthood, still haunted by the memory of losing both her father and her sister in a single act of violence.